My name is Jamie Coulter. I am the CEO of Raymond James Limited in Canada. And it's my great pleasure today to spend a little bit of time with one of our financial advisors in our Toronto corporate branch, Dee Colson. Dee, welcome and thank you very much for taking out some time for me today.
My pleasure. Nice to see you, Jamie.
Dee, you joined Raymond James in September of 2017 after more than 20 years at another firm. I'd love your take on the different reasons an advisor might consider changing firms and what in particular motivated you to make this move.
Well, certainly changing firms is, it's not an easy process. And when you've been with a firm for a long time, there's friends and colleagues that you leave behind. Although I have to say friends have stayed. So that's all good. I think, I've been in the business now for quite a while, and this kind of conversation about why would you leave a company, because you have to ensure that, that your thought process isn't that the grass is always greener on the other side. So you have to be really clear about the nuances that a change brings to both, I think, your day, as well as how you want to do your business and serve your client. So, from some of the conversations I've had with colleagues, over the years, I think there's some big picture issues that give pause to advisors and has them explore some opportunities. I think, there's times where, example, recently where COVID, there was much discussion about companies that were not maybe going to make it through because they didn't have the financial stability to make it through. And so that's important because of the long-term relationship with your clients. Technology. I think that staying on the front side of technology and improvements and enhancements, not just for how you process things day to day, but how clients can interact with technology is really important. So the attitude and investment in technology can be a reason. Honestly, I think management experience and values is critical. You want to make sure that you are in alignment with the values set out by another company. A contradiction doesn't work for anyone. It's not good partnership. I think also communication by management and senior teams about what's the strategy, where are we going, what are we trying to build. But communication is a two-way street. So companies that seek input from advisors so that there's a real collaboration about the end result is very key. A bugaboo for many advisors would always be compliance. So you want to look for fair, common sense, reasonable compliance. And I think also access to compliance, because when you have a long-term relationship with your client, you always want to pay attention to regulations, but sometimes there's a nuance to a client about something you want to see if we can make happen. And so discussion again and communication is really important. I think culture. Many people at times feel isolated within their culture. And so an open and inclusive culture is important. And culture can relate to so many things. Raymond James has actually done a great job here on diversity and inclusion, and that is a big factor towards culture, but also just interaction with your colleagues, feeling part of the overall picture, spending time together, idea sharing, attitude towards education, things like that can make a real difference. I think today's day and age too, and COVID has also put an exclamation mark behind this, data security. What is the attitude of the company, and how much are they willing to invest in data security? And I remember on one of the presentations with Paul Riley, and he spoke about this is an area where you can't cut corners, and technology needs change from one year to the next, and obviously security is critical for everything that we do. I also think reasons for change can be about the company's view towards forward thinking. How can the world change, and how do we adapt with that from a client perspective, as well as our ability to get business done? In the past, I've worked with many business coaches, and some of them have come out of the US. And I think just by size of market, et cetera, some really forward-thinking ideas have come out of there. And given that we have such a strong base in the US, and some of those issues can translate over, it's not new news. It becomes incorporated in management thinking as well as opportunity. And I think, other side is you have to look at succession planning. And some people just feel that where they're at, there isn't opportunity for succession planning or nor support. So those are some of the big picture considerations I think people look at. And then, of course, there's day to day. How do you get business done? How easy is it? You're the front line with the client, but you also, want to work with a company who is supportive in that regard. So I may be front facing with a client, but I need to know that the structure behind me makes doing business easy, and that we're all on the same page. So things like that are the range of product offerings. So range of products is really important. You want to make sure that it has the full range that you deal with, but also products that you don't currently have on your roster, and that there is an openness to enhancements or additions in the product lineup. You know this because you've heard so many complaints on the ease of documentation.
One or two.
One or two. So between ourselves and our team and clients, nothing is worse than doing documentation, but it's an absolute necessity. Yep. So, what is available from that? And with COVID, we overnight went to digital. And now we don't even, I think we have to keep documentation for like 30 days. And then, so, we're filing all of that just from an administration standpoint makes so much sense. And it's so much easier and faster and less frustrating for clients. They're not signing pages 18 times and initializing. I think other areas of consideration is what services do you offer your clients or want to offer? Who are your clients? And if they're, that I run a holistic, long-term discussion, family-oriented kind of business. So, financial planning is critical, and support within that between software, if you want to do it yourself or your team does, or you want other assistance, that's a great area. We also, in that approach, trust services, right? Yep. I have dealt with many elderly clients and know some of the problems that for family as well. And to be able to offer trust services to support powers of attorney or executors in whole or in part, I think is really important these days and go forward. Being an executor is a very challenging role. and having tax services inside the company where clients, we can just use our tax services to complete their taxes, those kind of things on a day-to-day basis is huge. It's time saving on the, documents, it's time saving for the clients. We can communicate with the tax team, so things get done faster and easier. So I really enjoy having that service available.
That's great. Like we covered a lot of ground in that one question, but I think if I was going to sort of try and pull that back together, you tell me if I'm wrong, but no one single reason. But again, the new place has got to have everything you need and more, and then the former firm, there's got to be something where there's some misalignment along the way, and you say, okay, look, I could better serve my clients over at this particular.
Agreed. I think you've summed it up correctly. There is no, you have to really start first with the client.
Yes.
And putting the client through a change without having solid reasons for that. What's in it for them? Why would this change? I mean, in our relationship, we are always looking to build trust and respect. That's the foundation of any good relationship. So why would you move? Clients very much want to know that. And how does this make their world better? So your reason to change certainly can be about how you do your workday and how it improves, but it has to also be meaningful to the client. So
I love that. You start with the end, start with the client first, and everything cascades
from there. If it doesn't work for them, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It will never work if it doesn't work for them.
It just won't work.
Yeah.
And yes, you need to be happy where you go in order to go through the process of change. Change is, as we know, not always easy, but when you choose to step through it, you have to feel very positive about this for your client. And it's okay to feel positive about it for your work environment, your growth, your ability to conduct your business. So now that doesn't mean that there can't be, I've heard many colleagues speak about, there is one final event.
Right.
But usually there may be thought processes along that way. And then there is something that maybe is in collision with either values or ability to do certain kind of business, whatever, that causes a real consideration for change.
That makes, I really appreciate that's a good description of a very difficult process and sort of a difficult decision process. Again, making the move is a big one. Considering all those sort of factors, probably stands you in good stead as an advisor. And I think you highlighted a really key point. Is the client better off if after this move? If the answer is yes, everything probably also falls into place at that point. In the financial sector, corporate culture can greatly influence the happiness and success of the people within an organization. What stands out to you about the culture at Raymond James? And more particularly, what do you see as our greatest strengths in this regard? And I think equally importantly, where's there room for growth?
I think in terms of the culture at Raymond James, it has been most intriguing upon our arrival to see the charitable side of this company. I am really surprised at how much money has been raised. The company freely matches. Advisors here and teams and individuals are incredibly generous towards times of need. And I really like that the company focuses on communities. This is where the company is doing business. And there is no false qualms about giving back to the communities who we engage with, where our clients are. And I think it's really a stalwart characteristic of this company. And I have also, from the culture standpoint, consistently heard this from day one, from management all the way down. And so it is part of this culture. It's woven into the fabric, if you like. You know, in month of May being, you know, the key volunteer month, the support for people to step away from their desk and freely give up their time in volunteering is, to me, you know, what companies say, you know, let's not think about us, let's think about somebody else for a whole month. Here, although that doesn't mean that Raymond James Cares, the group RJ Cares, doesn't do things all year round, but the momentum in that month is lovely. And you know, last September, you know, we were out at a Habitat for Humanity site, and we had so much fun with our colleagues and felt really good about our contribution at the end of the day. And nobody said, why were you away from work the whole day? And clients were so supportive of these kind of endeavors as well. So that's been one of the key cultural side. But I think also, you know, I've really enjoyed the people at the company, you know, genuinely warm and welcoming from day one. And it's a big change where you've left your colleagues and friends, but everyone was most gracious and inclusive right from the beginning, and that's been consistent. And so, you know, that's not to be minimized as well. And I think also, you know, the communication side, you know, you were all open to us saying more communication, please. You know, the more, the better. And the culture still during COVID, I think that's a prime example. We went from being in the office one day to being home. You know, remember it was going to be 2 weeks.
That was it. That was the plan.
That was
That was the plan.
And I instantly had my equipment at home. I was up and running in no time at all. If you don't have a culture of flexibility, and also the consistent message from you and Paul Allison and Paul Riley has always been, you know, safety and health of the people who work at the company, and obviously clients. But, you know, what was the safest way for us to continue to do what we do on a daily basis? And so I appreciated that culture of support, and it was consistent. It wasn't said here or there, it was said all the time. And I think even now, you know, one of our real benefits here is that you are allowing advisors to either work remotely, be in the office all the time, or choose a hybrid. Everybody has different situations, maybe clients, et cetera, that cause, there's times where you need to be home for a while, you need to stay on the down low, or that you want to be in the office, et cetera. But having that flexibility and having it supported, I think, is also a great example of the culture here.
I really appreciate that. And I think you know, that the charitable aspect, giving back to the communities that we live in and work in, you know, I could say that. It's nice to hear you say it. And that means a lot. And I remember the Habitat for Humanity outing that the branch did last, I thought it was actually more recent than last September, but there you go. I've lost some time in COVID here. And then
it could have been the year before, you know?
Who knows? Yeah, sometime between March of 2020 and today.
Right.
Anyone, and then again, just that whole concept of RJ Cares Month, that you've had the benefit of almost being here for 5 years. So but 2 of those were sort of, kind of lost years in some respects, but sort of still picking up on that and building on that. That's a big part of the culture here. So I'll sort of tell you one sort of funny story, and then we'll wrap up. But we hosted the Super Bowl at Raymond James Stadium, not this year, but the year prior. And I got a comment from a client. The client said, Raymond James had sort of all this free advertising in the halftime show because our logo happened to pop up for most of it. He said, could you have spent some of those marketing dollars giving back to your communities? And the one takeaway actually I have from that is we've probably not done as good a job articulating what you've just articulated to me out to our client base. And so if I was looking for an area where we can kind of grow or at least amplify some messaging, it's probably sharing a bit more than we do. And we're a pretty humble place. I get it. So we're not going to take out a big billboard and say we did this, but maybe not being so shy about sharing some of the good work that we're doing in communities across Canada and across the US, and letting our clients know that. And in this particular case, I worked with the advisor. We kind of came back with a nice, complete, thoughtful sort of response. And the takeaway from that with the client was, oh, this is great. I feel so much better about my relationship with your organization. He already felt good about it, but he felt that much better knowing that we were doing so much within communities. So I thanks for bringing that up. That's really that's important to me, as you know.
Well, you and I have talked many times about the importance of partnership. So how I, as an advisor, partner with you as a firm to serve client. The fact that together we can partner with communities where our clients live, or step back for a moment and see an area of need that we as human beings can give to. And it's nice, we're a financial institution, and there can be this supposition that the bottom line is always the most important. And there's times that there's lots of room for flexibility in the bottom line to give. And it's, I think, very evident at this company.
Thank you for that. And Dee, thank you very much for spending some time with me this afternoon. It was great to reconnect, and have a nice conversation with you on some really interesting points. Dee Colson joining me from our Toronto corporate branch. Thank you very much again for your time.